Good morning, everybody. This is Barb Katie on a blustery Monday morning. We had some rain last night, and the first frost of the year has been in the forecast for tonight. So we will see how chilly it gets. One of the things that I would really like to talk to you a little bit about today is another childhood story that I grew up absolutely loving. It's a Danish fairy tale and was in a collection from a librarian from Denmark named Just Matthias Thiel. And as I said, it's one that I heard and was read often by my parents, and it has amazingly translated so well into being an adult and how to make good decisions in my life. And the fairy tale is pretty simple. You may have heard it yourself. The title of the story is called Chicken Little. The Sky is Falling. And there was once a great big farm and a vast field where there lived a little hen named Penny. She had some great friends there on the farm, and those who knew her gave her some cute little names. She was tiny, and the other hens in the yard would tease her for her size and often termed her Chicken Little. While Penny really loved that name, her favorite name to be called was Henny Penny, given to her by the other fowls that lived nearby. The rhyme was perfect. It was sweet, and she liked it very much. Excuse me. One morning, as Henny Penny was digging for worms in the hen yard, an acorn dropped from a tree right onto her head. She had no idea what hit her, however, and so she started shouting, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling," and running about the barnyard. She ran in circles trying to calm herself down and then started off to alert the king. On her way, she came across Rooster Booster and told him the same thing. And he got all excited because Henny Penny was, and he says, "Well, I'll go along with you. We must tell the king." And off the two of them went. Well, it wasn't too long until they came across Ducky Lucky. And she told Ducky Lucky the same thing. And he had already been concerned because he had watched how fast Henny Penny and Rooster Booster were coming up the road toward him. And he had been splashing about in the water, and he just couldn't imagine such a thing, but he hopped on the bandwagon anyway because Henny Penny was so excited. He bounded out of the pond and joined them immediately, not asking one single question. And he shrugged off any doubts he might have had because they were so intent. Well, it wasn't too much longer until they came across Goosey Lucy, who was also floating at ease on the other end of the pond. And Henny Penny began, "Oh, Goosey Lucy, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. We must go alert the king." And Goosey Lucy sort of looked at him and said, "Really? How do you know the sky is falling?" And Henny Penny said, "It hit me right on the head. A big piece of it hit me on the head." So Goosey Lucy puffed up his chest feathers instantly and moved right along, not asking any more questions. And when finally the group of them, there were now 4 in the party, came across Turkey Lurkey, who was a little bit eccentric, they said the same thing to Turkey Lurkey. And all the other birds chimed in, "Yes, we must do this. We must go right away, right away." Well, Turkey Lurkey sort of paused, and he looked over at Goosey Lucy and he said, "Do you see any sky falling? Do you?" "Well, no, I don't," the goose responded. Well, Turkey Lurkey said, "Well, then I will come with you on your merry way. But I've got some doubts. He looked at Henny Penny and said, we probably need to think a little bit more about this and check this out. But off they all went. They waddled across the vast field until they came upon Foxy Loxy. And Henny Penny told Foxy Loxy the same thing. And Foxy Loxy looked at it and he thought, I can use this to my advantage. I will just play along and see what I can get. And Foxy Loxy ended up charming Henny Penny and Rooster Brewster into a hole in a tree. And he followed right after them. He was looking for a really good meal. That's what he was looking for. Well, Turkey Lurkey sized the situation up and saw what was going on and rallied the other birds that were outside the tree into taking some action and taking the action quickly. They began bombarding the tree, running up against it, shaking it, and the acorns began to fall down from the tree. It was an oak tree. And Foxy Loxy came out, to see what all the commotion was about. Well, just at that time, this whole mountain of acorns fell down and knocked him unconscious. Well, the other birds immediately began digging the acorns out of the hole and freed Rooster Brewster and Henny Penny and got him out of there, and everybody got out of danger. And the fox didn't get a free meal. Well, one of the things that this story taught me as a little child was how important it is to have a group of friends, how important it is to be able to trust that your friends have your back at all times. And also, it was a huge lesson to me about how we react to a situation. Henny Penny, or Chicken Little, whatever you want to call her, had an immediate emotional response. And she went with that rather than do anything else. It's another way of saying Henny Penny, when she observed an action, jumped to a conclusion. And that's a common issue, I think, for many of us, jumping to conclusions. I know when people jump to conclusions, they make unwarranted assumptions based on usually very limited information, just like Chicken Little did. When it happened, she did not bother to really investigate what had actually hit her on the head. She made an assumption. When a person jumps to conclusions, they very often draw the most negative things with little or no evidence about their assumption. And that's what Chicken Little did. She did not bother to make sure that the sky really was falling, or that there might be another more reasonable, in fact, explanation for what was happening. That's, I think, very common for a lot of people. You hear sort of half of the story and you just respond. You don't go beyond it. You don't fact check. Jumping to conclusions often happen either by making assumptions about what others think, which is a way of saying you read their minds, based on what you heard was said. You believe you know what that person was thinking. And you may not have heard correctly. You may have misunderstood what you heard. You may not know where that person was coming from. It may not be in context, whatever. But you go ahead anyway, and you jump to a conclusion and try to read their minds and make assumptions. Another thing is, very often when we make assumptions, we engage in something called fortune telling. We know, based on the information we thought we heard, what's going to happen. Well, that may not be the intended result. It may not even be the most likely result. But based on faulty information at the beginning, we run immediately to that conclusion that we see as a consequence of what we think the action was going to be. Jumping to conclusions can have a number of really detrimental effects to all of us. And I see it very often in our chapters. Even in my own chapter, from time to time, we engage in that. We think we hear somebody say something, we get our feelings hurt, we don't go to the other person and say, did you mean that, or did I misunderstand you, or where were you coming from? Instead, you hold it within yourself, you let it fester and grow into something much bigger than it ever should have been, and that can really hurt the chapter interaction and the ability to help and support each other. It can create conflicts within the chapter, within personal relationships in the chapter, which is so very important when we're looking for help and encouragement in our weight loss journey, which is difficult enough on its own without having imagined conflicts as part of the mix. And if you are always jumping to negative conclusions about other people, it can even lead to arguments and other problems within the group. I know with our TOPS rules, for example, a lot of times people jump to conclusions about why a certain thing was done a certain way, or they jump to conclusions about the board's intention or what they see as being a positive outcome for this. Instead of just asking questions and getting solid answers that could be helpful in understanding. It makes it difficult to see any situation clearly and increases the risk of making poor decisions, which can negatively affect all of our relationships, hurt our own confidence, and reduces our motivation to keep trying. Reframing how you think about a situation is one way that you can minimize the tendency that many of us have to jump to conclusions. Consider how each of the characters in this story might have responded differently to Chicken Little's panically call to action, and reframed their thinking and arrived at more accurate judgments that would have benefited themselves, but also could have helped Henny Penny, as she was so afraid and so concerned based on her faulty original conclusion. There's some things we can always do to help us get a clear picture of what is going on. And they all involve our willingness to reassess what we're thinking. That's not always easy to do, to sit back, take a breath, and reconsider what is going on. But there's some things that we can do, some actions we can clearly take that are helpful. The first thing that you can always do is go to the source and ask the question. If somebody says something about that somebody else said, go to the person that's supposed to have said it and say, did you say this? What did you mean when you said this? Henny Penny, is the sky really falling? What is the evidence you have that the sky is really falling? Fact check. Don't just assume because somebody else said it that that's actually what happened. It may not have anything, any basis in truth at all, but you won't know if you don't ask. Look into it carefully and listen and challenge your original perception. Is this possible? Is it feasible? Is it proof that this is right? Challenge your own initial response. Take another perspective. Reconsider what you think you know. We all learn and grow. And one of the best ways we can learn and grow is to ask questions and check facts. I know when I first started my weight loss journey, I got so many wonderful, well-meaning solutions to my weight loss problem. Barb, you just need to do this activity this many times a day and you'll just lose your weight. Barb, you need to eat like this. If you just eat like this is going to work for you and you'll never have another weight problem as long as you live. Barb, if you do this, you're going to win all these awards. And these are people that really were trying to help me, and based on what they thought they knew, they were giving me the right answers. But it was my responsibility to look into it, to assess if it would work for me, to ask questions of my healthcare provider if it was the right course of action for me to take, to see how it fit into my life and if it was my plan. Just because it was successful for someone else did not mean it was the path I needed to follow. I appreciated the advice, but for them to say it worked for everybody was not good advice for me. It was one way of looking for a solution. And I didn't want to jump to a conclusion and go off on a tangent that may in the long run have done me physical harm. In the short run, may have just been a waste of my time. I don't know about you, but for me, I have tried a few things that were simply a waste of time when it comes to living my healthiest, best life. And I've learned from them. And what I've learned is to always fact check, check the source, ask questions, listen to my body, listen to the experience of more than one other that may have tried it, and to keep things in perspective and to always base my decision on actual facts, not on what other people may be reporting, to go always as much as I can to the source. These are the strategies I've found helpful for me when it comes to not jumping to conclusions, getting all the facts, challenging my own assumptions, asking these questions, and shifting my perspective to improve my thinking on whatever the issue might be. When I find myself, and it recurs from time to time, beginning to mind read or fortune tell, I remind myself that I once again am beginning to jump to conclusions without checking the facts. Could it be possible that there are other explanations that make even more sense? Also, I try to watch when I seem to be looking at the worst possible outcome, because very often you're just barring trouble. Very often the worst isn't going to happen. You can prepare for the worst always, but you can also balance out your thinking with what the best outcome would be in any given situation. Usually, the result seems to always be somewhere between the worst outcome and the best outcome. It's somewhere in the middle. Maybe it didn't have every single thing you wanted, but it sure had a lot of things that would benefit you as you look at your life. That's what the story of Chicken Little brings to mind every time I reflect on it is. Always take the time to look around yourself, evaluate a situation fully, assess it carefully, go directly to the source of the information before you relay it to someone else. That way, you're not giving bad information to everyone. And that's so helpful in building good relationships that will enable us to continue to empower and support each other in this difficult journey that can be so rewarding and so much fun when we all work together to find the best possible path for each of us. With that, I'm going to close my book of fairy tales, and I'm going to wish all of you a wonderful beginning to a brand new week filled with success, happiness, and joy. Y'all take care now. Bye.